I watched Alex Wheatle the other day. I really, really enjoyed it. It's the second movie I got to watch out of the Small Axe series. So I just wanted to say congratulations on like having your life work like out there.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, it was. It's been a long time coming, and totally unexpected also because when I first entered the writers' room, I wasn't expecting that my life story would be told as one of the episodes.
Yeah, I mean, what does it feel like to have like a biopic? I mean, I know it's like a small portion of your life, but what does it feel
Yeah.
like to have your story like out there for so many people to see?
Overwhelming, and I feel extremely honored. I mean, how many living writers can actually say that they have a biopic about their early life and they're still alive to watch it? I mean, usually, you have to be long gone to get that honor. I mean, Tolkien, the writer of Lord of the Rings, a biopic came out about his life only what was it, last year or 2 years ago? And so I feel incredibly honored that Steve decided to do this about my life.
And I mean, you said you were in the writers' room about this, like for the whole series, but how involved were you in the process of making like this specific film?
Oh, I was very much involved. In fact, Steve wanted me to actually write the script, but I felt I was too close to it, especially when I had to, the story demanded that we go back to my childhood in, this brutal children's home. And I didn't want to keep returning to that issue because, when you're writing a script, you might be asked to redraft and look at particular aspects of that script and maybe rework it and so on. That's what a script writer does. That's what a novelist does. And I really didn't want to keep on doing that, and maybe trigger something from my past that might upset me. And so I felt it was best that Steve and Alistair, who was chosen to write the script, interview me. And so I could just get it all out and then they just go away and they could work on the script themselves. But I was consulted every step of the way. So and I made sure that I was involved on every step of the way. Also, I was invited onto the sets. I met the actors, and so it was very inclusive.
I mean, was there any part of the process that like triggered any sort of memories for you?
Yes, I mean you cannot get away from that, especially those young scenes where I'm physically abused. Um, in fact, that actually toned it down because I can tell you it was a lot worse than that. What I received. So, but because I've been willing to write about it for quite a long time now, whether it's disguised in fiction or whether I've been writing articles, I think that helped the healing process from, say, my late teens to my early 20s. That is when I started to take it on myself that, I have to vent this out of my system. I have to let it go. And writing helped me with that. And so because I started that a long time ago, maybe it was easier for me to handle, watching those scenes now. So I can watch it and say, well, there's nothing to be ashamed about. There's nothing to be fearful about. This is my life. And hopefully, this is what I want to leave a legacy for, is that maybe it will help young people who are in a similar situation, like I was in. It might help them say to themselves that, hey, this guy, he started at the bottom and somehow he made it through. He got over those hurdles and he made something of his life. So hopefully young people can see that with the same eyes and they could maybe use Alex Wheatle, if you like, as an example for them to say to themselves, this is not the end. Things will get better.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Shay yesterday actually
Yeah.
about this process, and he said you were so open and so amiable with him about getting any sort of information he needed for you. Like, what does it feel like to kind of have to, I guess, teach someone to like be you? Like, what is that? What was that relationship like that you had with him?
It was kind of spooky at first because Shay, he even resembles me a little bit when I was very young. So that was kind of like, whoa, you know. But he's a lovely young man, a lovely young man. And I like to see young people do well. So I said to him, you got any questions? Here's my phone number. Call me anytime you like. And when I saw him actually acting, it felt like an out of body experience. It really did. you know, it almost felt like I had died and gone to heaven, and I was looking down on my early life. You know, it's a very strange, surreal experience watching yourself being acted by somebody else.
Yeah, and we were talking about like small acts being a part, I guess, of like the curriculum now in like British schools. And so I'm wondering like what that feels to you to have your story be a part of that like canon going forward, that students are going to know like what happened to you, and how that impacted, you know, like British society.
Well, I guess I feel very proud, Brianna. I feel like I've come full circle because when I started on this writing journey, basically it was me reacting to go into bookshops when I was very young, and I couldn't find anything that I could relate to. There was nothing there that told my story or what I could engage with, and so that was one of the motivations for me to start writing fiction because I wanted to fill that gap. You know, because we have these bookshops in Brixton and elsewhere, and yet you look in the shelves and there's nothing there that tells of my story or the people who I know or my experiences. And so that's why I originally wrote Brixton Rock and East of Acre Lane and so on. That's how I began my career. And so now, 20 odd years later, them actually deciding that my narrative will be included in this research module for BBC television and history unit and so on. It makes me feel incredibly proud where young people, maybe like yourself, as old as yourself, or maybe younger, can pick up something or listen to something and engage with the lives that I had or the lives that my friends had. I think that's an incredible thing that the black community can now own because I didn't have that growing up. It wasn't accessible to me, that history. Now we're making these histories accessible for young people all over the world. And that's an incredible thing. And I feel this is, if you like, our contribution to the Black Lives Matter the Black Lives Matter movement. Because for me, it's not just about putting down statues. It's about informing our young of our struggles, our experiences, and making sure that they have access to those experiences.
Yeah, and specifically, like I myself too am Jamaican. My parents are from
Right.
Kingston, and so obviously, like seeing other Jamaican people on screen is like, you know, such a proud moment for myself. But I am always lamenting about the way that we are represented in media. It's very like
Yeah.
stereotypical, and I just wanted to ask you like how you feel about representation of like Caribbeans in general, because obviously Small Axe isn't just about Jamaicans; it's about Caribbean,
Yeah.
you know, the West Indian experience in Britain as a whole. But I just wanted to ask your opinion on like how Caribbeans, but especially Jamaicans, since you're Jamaican as well, like how we're represented in media, and how do you think Small Axe fits into that canon?
Well, sometimes, Brianna, our representations are extremely poor, especially in Hollywood movies. I remember watching Steven Seagal movies. I mean, it was like how many Russell Farians he could kill in 2 minutes. You know, it was just ridiculous. But we hope that Small Acts will represent something different. I mean, there is Simeon, the character who I met in prison, and he's a very positive character. How rarely do we see someone like that on screen? It's very rare that we see a well-educated, avid reader who's a Rasta man, who happens to be a Rasta man, trying to show compassion to a young troubled man. We hardly ever see that. So for me, we are trying to offer very strong depictions of our black men, you know, and that's very important for young people to see like yourself because it's so rarely seen on the screen. So I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that. That someone like Simeon can get that kind of focus and get that kind of, you know, we can see that kind of role on a major television program. So I was very proud about that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Simeon, because I always feel like Rastafarians specifically get the short end of the stick when it
Yes.
comes to representation. They overwhelmingly are like the image of what Jamaicans are, even though in the country they're a very small population of people. And so to see Simeon actually get the care and tenderness and show really another side to, well,
Yeah.
I think the predominant side of Rastafarians, I think that was really special. And I also wanted to ask, do you still keep in touch with Simeon?
Simeon passed away about 5 years ago. He went back home. He lived in Westmoreland. That's where his family came from. And he decided, when he finished his working life, he decided to go back home. He built a place in Westmoreland. But he would demand that I send him every book that I publish. And he would write back to me 10-page critiques of my novels, showing me how I could have done something better. He was forever my mentor and teacher. And we so desperately need those people in the community. And he was one of them. He was like a father figure to me.
That's amazing. I mean, I was reading how you've gone back to Jamaica a couple of times, and I've been a few
Yeah,
times. And it's always an experience. I got to go with my mom and my aunt and listen to them talk about, their love of the country, but how different it is now that, they've been
yeah.
gone for so long. Like, as someone who also is from there but not born there, like, what is that experience like for you to like go back there and really like immerse yourself in the culture?
I first went back in 1987, Brianna, to be reunited with my father. And he lived in Old Harbour, which is about 10 miles out of Spanish Town. And it was quite uneasy at first because I still kind of blamed him for placing me in social care. Excuse me. And so the first meeting was quite an awkward one, where there's lots of anger, lots of bitterness. But eventually, we got on. I mean, I felt quite fortunate because many people like myself never get to know their parents, and so I would try to see him every year if I could. I went to see him 88, 89, and every other year, whenever I could afford it. And he passed away in 2011. I'm glad that I knew him. With my mother, it was a bit different because she wasn't in Jamaica. I was searching in Jamaica, but she was in the US. She was in Washington, D.C. with my siblings. And so I only met with her 1998, 99. But going back to Jamaica, it fills me with pride, actually, that and belonging, because I grew up without feeling those emotions. And so whenever I go back to Jamaica now and see my aunts and see cousins, and I might holiday, I might go to the North Coast and Ochi and go to a resort, I feel like, yes, this is my roots. This is where my people belong, and so on. So there's a massive sense of pride, and also the reggae music. When I hear that reggae music, I feel, wow, yes, I'm definitely at home. In fact, one of the first things I asked my father was to take me to Channel One Studios that was run by those Chinese brothers, the Hu Kims, I think. And because I'm a massive fan of reggae music, so he did take me there, even though he preferred Jim Reeves. I went through his record collection. Jim Reeves, I thought, what? So, but me, yeah, he took me to Channel One. He took me to 9 Mile, where Bob Marley was buried. So I thanked him for that. So I was all about the reggae. And so I went to dances. I mean, in '87, I went to a King Jammy's dance. That was incredible. I think I went to another dance. I saw Papa San. In fact, I even saw Beanie Man when he was young, when he was very young. I think he must have been 11 or 12 or 13 or something like that. I saw him perform, and he would stand on a little box so people could see him. And even then, he was an incredible talent, a really incredible talent. I mean, now my favorite DJs are like Buju Banton. I love Buju Banton to death.
I was literally
Um,
listening to Champion before this interview
yeah,
started.
yeah, Buju Banton. I've seen him 3, 4 times. When he used to tour, he used to come to Brixton to the academy and perform, and he's just magnificent. He really is. And then going back, I was a big fan of Yellow Man, a big fan of the Lone Ranger, a big fan of Barrington Lee. Big fan of many of them, many of them. So that will always be with me because reggae music for me is not just to dance to, but it gave me some kind of solace. It gave me some kind of belonging as well. It gave me some kind of motivation to get up and try to better myself. It really did, because when you have nothing, all I had was the music that kept me going, that made me believe that things would get better.
Yeah, I'm glad you transitioned to music, Ashley, because my last two questions for you are about music. So you're like credited with creating this sound called Crucial Rock. Like what is Crucial Rock? Like, can you explain to people like what that is and where that sound comes from?
Well, there was a lot of sound systems in South London at that time, calling themselves this rocker or that rocker or ja rocker. And me and Valentine, my good friend Valentine, we came up with this crucial rocker. So it was all very like important. We saw ourselves as very important, and so we kind of established that name, the Crucial Rocker Sound, and we played at parties, youth clubs, sometimes town halls. We built 1,000 watt valve amplifier back in the day, and we use 18-inch Goodman speakers. So that was fantastic for us because it gave me, especially, an identity that I never had before. Something that I felt, yes, this is mine, this is my culture, and I just dived into that because I grew up with white culture all around me. And so I kind of grew up in a way where I felt that black culture was insignificant or not important. And so it was very nice for me to come to Brixton and to be aware of the importance of black culture, especially reggae music. And so that was fantastic for my growth and my belonging and my sense of being to be aware of that and to immerse myself in that.
Yeah, you can definitely. I was fortunate enough to go to London last year, and I was able to go to Brixton with my family. You can definitely feel
Mm.
the culture in Brixton, like everywhere, different from all the other places. So I'm really glad to have had that experience. But I want to ask you, do you know what Versus is? Have you heard of that program before?
Say that again?
The Versus program, have you heard of that?
No, I have not. Should I know?
Oh, okay. So this was something that was started in quarantine, where artists,
Right.
um, as a way to, like entertain people, they would get on Instagram
Yeah.
Live and they would
Oh,
play.
yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, I saw the Beanie Man Bounty Killer.
Yes, yes, yes. That was a
Yeah, loved
versus.
it.
Yes.
Loved it. My whole family watched that.
Yeah, same, same, same. So
Yeah.
that is supposed to be like reminiscent of the clash culture that we have in
Yeah.
Jamaica, which I feel like also a lot of people don't know too much about. So I just wanted to ask you like what you think of Versus and the way that like Jamaican music, because we have that phrase "Likable we talawa." Like, how do you
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
about like
It's very true.
Jamaican culture, like being such? I mean, we're such a small island, 2-3 million people, and yet
Yeah.
we have such global impact. Like, how do you feel that where it relates to like music specifically?
Well, I understand that the Beanie and Bounty Killer versus show, that was one of the most widely watched in the whole series. And I felt that they represented Jamaican music so well. It was fantastic, a fantastic show, enjoyed by, I think, over 1 million people. And I think Jamaican music is always evolving. I mean, now we have artists like Coffee. I think that when she gets to tour, she's going to be absolutely huge and massive. I mean, what a rising star she is. I'm a massive fan of hers. And it'd be nice to see how she progresses once lockdown is over. And so, yeah, I always have a love for the music. Always have a love for the music, and it's nice to see young people, young artists taking that mantle on from people like Buju and people who from the past, from my era, when I used to go to dances when I was 16, 20 or whatever, and see a new kind of sound emerging, new artists emerging. I cannot wait to see artists like Coffee in concert and go to Jamaica and dance the night away.